Today's speaker is Mr. Ankur Nagar, and he's going to give a webinar on planning your career for market research. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Suruchi, for the introduction and welcome all. I hope everyone is doing safe, staying at home right now in this period. And so, tell you something about this webinar. Uh, so, this will cover a basic uh, idea of market research, what it is all about, and it gives you a 35,000 bird's eye view of how market research can be used or is used in organizations. What is the market research process, and how what are the career options in market research? So it's a very basic webinar, which and I hope it's beneficial to you. So to begin with, what I'll do is I'll ask Suruchi. Suruchi, can you be online? Yeah.
Yes, I'm online, sir.
Yeah. So, Suruchi, so tell me something like how do you take care of your skin, face?
I use minimum chemical products on my skin.
Okay.
I'm genetically gifted to have smooth and fair skin, so I take care of it as naturally as I can.
Okay.
Um, I I generally use homemade face packs like basin and lemon juice in it. Sometimes potato juice as well.
Okay.
That helps me with detanning and getting rid of blemishes as well. So minimum chemicals is what I would. Yeah,
And
yeah.
do you use any products, any brands?
For skincare. For
Yeah.
skincare, I use non-soap based medical face wash.
Okay.
Apart from that, sometimes I buy, I think it is Garnier's face mask
Okay.
sometimes. And apart from that, no skincare products for me.
Okay. So I believe you are having a natural gift of a good skin, and that's why you
Yes,
don't worry too much.
yes,
Great, great. Thank you so much for giving a broad idea.
yeah.
To start with, what I'll do is I'll just activate a poll which talks about what is your current occupation. So I would request all the participants who are there to click on the poll and click on whatever suits you, whether you're pursuing graduation, pursuing post graduation, working, if you're housewife or doing something else, so you can click on others. So I give you around 30 seconds to answer this poll. I am sure it won't take long. Okay, so I see over here there are few students who are doing post graduation, who are doing graduation. There are people who are working, and then there are others also. So the reason why I asked you is to make me understand that what is the kind of people that I'm interacting with, so that I can modify or go in details according to the slides and the stuff that I need to present. So to start with, let me give you a broad idea of market research. So what is market research? It's basically an organized way of gathering information, which can be used by used for taking business decisions or taking any kind of decisions. So it's basically I need to gather information in an organized way. Now, how can we do that? There are basically two ways of doing. One is quantitative, the other one is qualitative. Quantitative basically talks about numbers. So whatever numeric data that we can have, basis which we want to take some decisions, so that is quantitative. So it is based on some objective input, and it collects a large amount of data which can be utilized to take decisions. Whereas qualitative, on the other hand, so coming back to quantitative, what I did in the first poll, was a quantitative exercise wherein I wanted to get a feel of how many participants are there who are students, how many are there who are working, so that I get a broad idea of whom I'm addressing to. So it's a quantitative because I was seeing the numbers who are clicking on. Whereas qualitative is something which is non-numeric and it asks you why. So whenever you want to have a whenever you want to collect data which is more subjective in nature, which is more emotional in nature, and it's in a smaller scale, not in a large scale, then it's a qualitative. So the interaction that I had with Suruchi earlier was trying to know that what she does for her face, skin, what are the products that she uses, what does she thinks about her skin care. So she said that she's blessed with a beautiful skin, and she doesn't need a lot of products. She relies on homemade remedies. So it's a bad sign for some of the uh, players who are in this market of skincare and beauty care, but then she's blessed with it and she doesn't need those products. So this is a difference between what quantitative and qualitative is all about. So why do organizations need market research? Now, I'm sure you would have seen some chart, something like this. If you have not seen, I'll tell you what happens. It's a normal PLC chart, what they call. So, what happens is that every product or service has an introductory stage, and wherein you do a lot of innovation, you plan the product, you ideate, and then you launch it in the market, and then you see the product or service growing. It by time it reaches into a maturity stage, and then if you don't action anything about the product, so either you can extend or you do some modifications in the product, or you expand geographies. So until unless you don't do, it will start declining. So this is a life cycle of a product or a service. And in this presentation, when I'm trying to explain to you about how market research can be benefited by organizations, what I'll do is run a second poll which talks about which category would you like. So I'll pick up one category which you guys choose, and then we will have our discussion basis that category. So I'll just start the polling. You can go on the poll and click on whichever category you want. I have named few categories. Yeah, so you can go ahead. One is mobile service provider, face wash, ready to eat, banking, and finance. Yeah. Again, 30 seconds. We talked about the product life cycle. So, what if we break this product life cycle into four parts? So, the first phase is developing new products. So when it comes to banking and finance, there are a lot of savings account, bank, then you have different credit cards, different loans. So in order to come out with a new product, they need to develop the products. They need to think about what they can do, what kind of offering that they can come up with. And that is the whole stage of developing the product. When it comes to building brand, it's basically when the product is ready and then you want to publicize it. You need to do communication so that people start knowing about that product. So for an example, if you're talking about credit card, so once the offering is made, then the company, the bank, will start communicating that what are the this is the new credit card which they have come up with, what are the benefits, whom is it targeted to, what are the advantages that people can get while when they purchase the credit card. uh, it also talks about the price and stuff like that. And then we come to optimizing performance. So the product is launched, so but we need to keep the pace. So we need to promote the product we need to promote the credit cards every time. We need to ensure that it is reached to the right people in the right manner. And then comes the managing stakeholders. So the stakeholders are basically people who are the customers of the credit cards. So we need to ensure that whatever we are offering, they are happy with it. Uh, they are satisfied. If they have complaints, we need to resolve it at then and there. We also need to engage employees internally. Uh, Also, sometimes not in credit card, but sometimes what happens is, just to take an example of uh, the Maggie controversy, which happened in 2015-16. So over there, uh, people, what Nestle would have done is they would have engaged to other stakeholders also, like PR, like government agencies, to ensure that everything runs normal and there is no negative things being talked about the brand. So this is the whole life cycle which I have divided into four parts. And let's see in each of these four parts how market research can fit in. So the first one is innovation and product development. So when we talked about the credit card, the ideation of what offerings can credit card bring in, because we can't be a me too. We all, when we ideate, we have to be different. We can take few things, but we need to be different in our offerings. And there we need consumers to tell. Yeah, internally we can also decide, but consumers are the people who will tell you that what kind of product that they are looking of, what kind of offering that they are looking out for, what can create a wow for them. So at one point of time, I remember when credit cards started offering lounge access, it was a wow moment. And now every Tom, Dick, and Harry credit card is offering lounge access and certain kinds of credit cards. And now, if you go to lounges, right now you can't go, but when things are in a better shape, if you go to lounges, earlier they were so like there were very few people who used to visit lounges, and now you see overcrowded. There are few lounges wherein it's difficult to get an entry. You need to stand in a queue. Then you have opportunity identification, which I've covered. Then concept product testing. So when you have an offering, you need to test it whether that offering will work or not work. What are the changes that are required? Suppose I want to understand that whether lounge access is a better option, or giving them an experience like event passes and all is a better option. So those kind of concepts and product testing can be done through market research. We can arrive at the pricing of the card through market research, wherein we expose them the offerings and ask them that what kind of price are they willing to pay for it, because most of the premium cards have your joining fees and then annual fees. uh, then you have simulated test marketing. So you have the main product and then you test it out in market, whether it is working, not working. If it is not working, you need to make changes. U&A study is something which is, the full form is usage and attitude. So it talks about that these customers, how do they generally use credit cards? What are their attitude towards credit cards? Then comes the building brand. So when you are positioning the brand, you need to understand that how your brand is performing. So what how market research can help is that it will if I want to measure that how my credit card is performing vis-a-vis the other banks credit cards which are there in my competition domain, so I can check from the consumers, from the people who are non-consumers also, that whether they have seen or heard about my credit card, what are their likes, dislikes, how do they see my brand offering this credit card. Also, what we can do when while doing building brand is communication evaluation. So uh, we saw that we need to promote our brand, right? So what we can do is, if you are planning to come up with a television commercial, or you are planning to come up with a print ad, or you are planning to come up with some social media uh, communication, all these can be evaluated through market research. And the benefits that you can get is, so for an example, I'm taking a communication evaluation example over here. So what let's say I have a credit card and I want to uh, have a TV commercial of it, and I give it to the ad agency. They come out with a TV commercial, and it's a let's say 30-second ad that they have prepared. Now, I don't know how much 30-second ad would pay. So what I can do is I can test it around among consumers, certain set of consumers who are my target audience, and check with them that what are they noticing in the ad, whether the brand is getting recalled, what are the messages that they are deciphering from the ad. And then what we can do, in fact some brands actually do, is out of that 30-seconder they convert it into a 10 or a 20-seconder, so that their reach is maximized. So the amount that you will pay for a 30-seconder ad, you need to pay less amount for 10 or a 20-seconder ad, and then you can invest more grp, so basically more time, number of times the ads can come on TV. So this is a way in which your communication evaluation can help brands. When it comes to optimize performance, we can do some shopper behavior studies. So for an example, uh, if somebody is buying my card, so what made him buy my card? uh, how was his experience, whether it was smooth or whether I had hiccups. um, what are the other brands that I considered? How what actually influenced me buying that particular credit card? So all things can be evaluated through market research. uh, when it comes to manage stakeholders, again, I can do customer satisfaction study of my consumers about how they are rating my card vis-a-vis other cards that they have or from competition brands. I can do evaluation of uh, people who are there in my organization, the partners that are there. uh, and it's not applicable with the credit card, but we can do satisfaction studies among investors, media influencers, society. So basically to understand that how my brand is performing, and are there any positives, negatives. What I can do with positives is I can leverage those positives. I can talk about those positives to people. Whereas if I come across negatives, then I can improve those negatives. Uh, so this is typically how market research can fit into uh, the organization. There are organizations who do market research all across for innovation, product development, for building brand. They do brand equity studies. uh, they do studies for performance optimization. They do studies, satisfaction studies among stakeholders. Whereas there are certain brands who pick and choose whatever is relevant for them depending on their business issues. So it actually depends upon the company, uh, whether and at what level market research is done. We are there to suggest, but final decision rests on the company stakeholders. So coming to the next part is what actually is a market research process. Now, I said that there are two parts, quantitative and qualitative way of collecting information. So, what this particular slide focuses more on quantitative, but I will also discuss on how qualitative is done and what is the process of qualitative. I'll tell you where there are commonalities and where there are differences. So, what happens is, first, the client or the company uh, identifies what are the business issues that they are facing, what are the business challenges that they are facing, and then according to that challenge, what is the research requirement, and then they send whatever research briefs to agencies who are market research basically agencies, and then the agencies send their proposals and they suggest that because if you have this challenge, then this is the methodology, you should meet so many number of people, and these are the things that you can expect out of research. So once the company receives, the credit card company would receive uh, these proposals from agencies, they will start shortlisting the agency. So here, for an example, I'm taking again the example of credit card, and I want to understand as a client, I want to understand that whether the people who have taken my credit cards, whether they are satisfied or not, whether they are using some different cards, what is the frequency of my card usage versus other competition cards usage, how are they rating competition uh, cards. So I will send this to the research agencies. They'll come back with the proposal. I will again shortlist the agency uh, according to their methodology that they have suggested, the time, the cost that they have suggested. Then what agency does is they do some kind of desk research. So basically, in this case, what they will do is they will try to understand what are the different credit cards that are there in the market, which are its competition, what are their offerings. Probably get in touch with few people and try to understand the offerings and their uh, happy or the issues that they are facing with the credit card. And after that, they will start preparing the questionnaire. So questionnaire is basically a, as I said, that there is a systemized way of collecting information. So questionnaire is that part wherein they lay down all the questions which have to be asked so that they come out with the answers. Discussion guide is something that the qualitative prepares. So it's so as you saw during the first part that a questionnaire wouldn't have answered what Suruchi likes or how does she feels about her skin and all. So I prepare a discussion guide which tells me that what all I have to ask Suruchi to get my answers, and that's discussion guide. Then what happens is once the questionnaire is prepared, earlier what used to happen is most of the interviews that were done face to face were through pen and paper. Gradually, things are changing. So people have adopted technology, wherein they started with netbooks, tabs, uh, and so that requires a backend scripting of the questionnaire. Then the agency finally briefs the field and tells them that how gives them instruction how to collect the information. Then the actual field work happens, wherein the field team representatives go into the field and they get the questionnaires filled depending on the uh, TG's target group that we need to meet. So in in this case of credit card, what they will do is if I have given them a list of my customers, they will try to set up meetings with my customers and then go over there and fill the questionnaire. In case of if you remember, I had said I need competition information also, and I don't have the database of competition. So they will go randomly to people also who fit the, in the criteria, and then they will collect information from there. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Then what happens is the data which is collected, it goes through data punching. So or and then the analysis and data table generation is done. In case of qualitative, there is no scripting because it's a discussion guide that they prepare, and there's therefore no scripting. There's no field. There is a bit of field briefing. Field work is actually done by, so qualitative uh, requires a different skill set altogether, and typically qualitative researchers are have a background from psychology and all, so that they try to get more and more information from the respondents. And what then they do is they accumulate all the data. They have their own way of preparation, and then both in case of quantitative and qualitative, you prepare the report and then finally present to the client, saying ki, in this case, how satisfied, or what is the satisfaction rate of my credit cards versus other bank credit cards. And possibly in this case you will get scores that my credit card has a score of, let's say, 4.8 out of 5. Competition is 4.1, competition is 4.9, the other competition is 4.4. And then we delve deep into what are the possibilities of positive or negative scores and how things can be improved. So this typically is the whole process of market research. Uh, Now, what are the type of companies in market research? So there are something called full service agencies. I'm not talking about client who commissions the project. Okay, client can be any and everyone. It can be a telecom player or a automotive player or FMCG player. It can be anyone. So I'm talking about the people who work at the back end. So uh, to get the actionable insights. So there are full service agencies. So what these full service agencies do is they do the whole work, starting from writing the proposal at the very beginning, and then identifying the methodology. Then once they prepare the questionnaire, they do the scripting, they do the field work, they do the analysis, and they report, and then they finally present to the clients. The other kind of agencies are data collection agencies. So what they actually do is they don't have a direct interaction with the client. In some cases they do have, wherein the client only wants data collection and nothing else. But typically these data collection agencies, what they do is they get the questionnaire from the client or from a consultant, and then they do the field briefing, field work, data punching, and their job is over. So they are basically collecting the data and nothing else. Then the third is data analysis agencies. Now these people, they don't collect the data. They don't do the proposal or questionnaire preparation and all. What their job is, that once the questionnaire is ready, they will do the scripting, like coding it in the relevant language, so that it is tab ready or laptop ready. And then once the data comes in, they do the analysis and table generation. Then you have research consultants who um, actually guide clients to tell them that what kind of research is required, what kind of whether in so in my case I'm a consultant. So what I do is basically tell the client that according to what their requirement is, uh, tell them that whether they actually require research or not, because many a times clients are sitting with a lot of data, internal data, or old reports that they have. So we, as a consultant, we tell them that whether a research is required. If a research is required, then what kind of research is required, what kind of agencies that they can approach for. And once the job is done, then collate all the information which was there existing, and the insights that we get, and then collate and try to uh, bring out some actionable insights out of it so that we go to the next step of actions that we need to take for the brand. Now, off late, I won't say off late because now it has become very popular. So there are two more agencies which have come up. One is panel service providers. So what they do is uh, it's basically online. So what they have done is they have created a panel of consumers, and what they do is that depending on the requirements of the client and whatever the objective and the target group is, they float the questionnaire online through to their panel members. So it's a mix kind of people who are there in their panel, and they send the link, and the panel members can click and answer the questionnaire. They can off late what is happening is a lot of qualitative work is also done through panel service providers, wherein they give a platform wherein you can do an in-depth interview one-on-one, like the way I'm doing a webinar. So it's a one way, but over there you can have an interaction like you are currently having on WhatsApp with your family members. So you can have groups online. So a lot of evolution is happening. And then you have secondary data providers. So what they do is they have done a lot of desk research. So they create reports and then they sell it to the buyers who are interested in buying those reports. So it can be anything like for an example, taking the example of credit card only, it can be credit card buying behavior in India, and they would have done some survey, some secondary research, and they would have created a report, and you can buy that report. So those are the secondary data providers. So broadly, these are the agencies, or these are possible places wherein you can work depending on your interest level. Now, uh, to talk you about the changes that are happening in market research. So a lot of so earlier, what used to happen was that the clients used to uh, tell the agencies, and then they used to give the data, and either the agency will make sense out of the data. If they are not happy, then the client themselves will make sense out of the data, and they use it to make decisions. Now, off late, with a lot of data mining and AI, big data coming into picture, a lot of focus have shifted to internal data, because people have started realizing that a lot of data lies inside the system. So they have started using that internal data, and that's why uh, they can take more actionable steps, because then I know that if, let's say, I want to understand something in credit cards only, if I want to understand what is the satisfaction level and how it has moved around the corner, so probably I have some internal data wherein I know what is the kind of satisfaction level that people are rating from old reports. Or if you are aware of that, if when you are applying for credit card, and if you call center, or there are various touch points. So the touch points also send you a request to evaluate those touch points. So you get a lot of data internally through those also. So things are changing. So people are focusing more on internal data, and whatever data points are missing, the information is missing, then they try to fill those gaps with a proper quantitative or a qualitative research. But in some cases we can't do so. If I'm developing a new product, I don't have old data for that product, so I'll have to start from scratch. uh, Also, what is happening is a lot of technological advances are have happened. So for an example, earlier when for shopping behavior kind of job. So what used to happen earlier was that uh, you would have posted a person outside the shop, and his job in the day would be to observe and see how people are buying, what are they buying, what are they asking for, and then they will take a note, and if required they will interview that person. Now with technology in place, I can place cameras inside the shops and see and record the whole conversation. I can record the whole behavior, the actual behavior which is happening inside the store. Then uh, when it comes to ad also, so we talked about the communication evaluation. Now instead of showing the ad and then taking views about the ad, so what we can do is basically ask them to wear VR system or eye tracking system, wherein we will also come to know that what are the things that they are noticing in that particular ad. Or let's say if I want to launch a website, and or if I've made some changes in my website, what are the things that they are looking in the website, what are the points, what is the map that they are following in the website, whether they are clicking home first, or whether they are clicking offers first, or whether they are clicking to know more about uh, the products. So all things can be done, and these are because of technological advances. One The other technological advance which I talked about was changing from pen and paper to more of a scripting and tab based capturing of information. It can be done through telephone also. And with COVID impacting market research, because in India most of the market research still happens on face to face basis, wherein uh, people the interviewers would go and collect information, whether it is on pen and paper or tab or notebook. But with COVID coming in, a lot of focus has now shifted to online panel providers and collecting information through online medium. Also, a lot of there were people were skeptical about how online would behave, especially in qualitative, wherein you do face-to-face interviews, you do groups, you do ethnographies, but then people have started adopting the online medium. So these are some of the technological advances which have happened in market research. The other main thing is that a lot of focus is happening on actionable insights. So when I talk about actionable insights, it's not like earlier wherein uh, data used to come, or simple reports and charts used to come, and then they would suggest summary and way forward. But a lot of things have moved above uh, a normal data heavy kind of report. uh, Focuses more on what else can we do, what are the insights, what are the hidden things that are there in the report which can be made into action. Now, coming to the main part of what are the career options in market research. So, I've broken it into four broad buckets. One is main research, the other one is business development, client engagement, the third is data collection, and fourth is analysis. And depending on what your interests are and what you want to become, uh, according to that you can pick and choose what you what are the career options that are there in market research. So in research, what typically happens is that I'm talking about the agency point of view. You write a lot of proposals, you design the questionnaire, uh, there is a field briefing which I talked about, so you do field briefing, you make an analysis plan, give it to your analysis team, and then you help in making the report. What happens in business development and client engagement is the whole focus is on getting new business and ensuring that your proposals are competitive so that you can win. because everything is sales driven. And then you regularly have an engagement with the client. You try to ensure that whatever the issues client had are getting addressed through the report. In data collection, typically what happens is that you are required to do a lot of the scripting part. You are required for data analysis and generating tables. Uh, Also, sorry, so for data collection, you are required skills of collecting data through online or offline medium, and ensuring that you are collecting the right data. You're not sitting under the tree and filling the questionnaire. uh, you need to ensure that the whole process of field work is done properly. Then in analysis stage, you are required to do the scripting of the questionnaire. You need to create files. Sorry, yeah. So in research and business development, typically the kind of people who enter are uh, starting with graduates, postgraduates, and they probably would have done MBA in marketing, uh, and that's how the and then when they enter as a research associate, and then they climb up the ladder. They can shift to the client side because so for an example, uh, if you talk about credit card, and if you talk about ICICI Bank, then ICICI Bank or HDFC Bank, they do have internal people who look after consumer insights or market research. So you can shift to the client side also. uh, the only difference between research and BD client engagement, when you talk about the skill set which is required, is there are people who are good into sales. Their attitude is towards sale. They are not conservative, they're open, and they like meeting people. They like the challenges, and that's why BD client engagement role fits them. There are people whom I know, they don't like that kind of uh, environment, and they are into research frame. They are good into research, and they grow in that field. Whereas in data collection, now in data collection you have varied kind of people. So right from housewives. So uh, when so in like I said, in India, most of the data collection is done through face to face, and in most of the cases in FMCG category, you need to meet the households to get information. So a lot of housewives, a lot of women who want to do more earning, they do data collection. There are uh, college dropouts, there are graduates who do data collection. Whereas for household part, whereas there are corporate interviews wherein, let's say if I have to meet some manager of the company or the CEO of the company to collect data, to gather information. So over there, you require a different skill set. So they are more uh, like evolved. You can say they might be graduate, postgraduate. There are a lot of students who like to collect data. So those are the kind of profile of people who do collect data, and then they grow up the ladder. Whereas in analysis, you need to, so it again requires a different skill set wherein you need to uh, have knowledge of mathematics, statistics. There should be some interest in mathematics, statistics. Then if you talk about scripting and all, there you need to have a knowledge of the language that in which you have to script. So it's more of if I, in layman terms, if I have to say it, it will more of a BSc, MSc Math Stats. And these days, a lot of people who are going into that field of R, Python, and others languages to for scripting and doing the analysis and all. So these are the different skills that are required for each of these four buckets. Depending on whatever your interests are, you can choose. Uh, as I mentioned earlier, also there is a different skill set required for qualitative researchers. So they are typically from the background of MPhil or have done some psychology courses, uh, and who love to talk because they're talking and extracting information from the respondents. That is the main skill set which is required over there. So that is a different skill set altogether for qualitative researchers. You can also become a qualitative researcher. You can also graduate from quantitative to qualitative. So for an example, I the reason why I said it's a different skill set is because it took me many years to graduate from quantitative to qualitative. I can't say that I'm a qualitative researcher, I'm more of a quantitative researcher. But yeah, I am now comfortable after 10, 12 years of experience. Now it is 15. But after 10, 12 years of experience, then I was a bit confident of or doing the in-depth interviews or groups on my own. So it depends on your comfort level and where your interest lies. Uh, in fact, even if your interest doesn't lie in all these, and you after this session you feel that market research is not my cup of tea, it this whole thing would help you in knowing what market research what is all about, and whenever you want to apply some market research, you can use these small learnings. uh, and if you are a student undecisive of what career that you want to take, then possibly you can check Dheya's website. They have some excellent career assessment tools which guide you to according to your interest and skill set, and some questions and all, what is